Hello and welcome back everyone, we Weeb Online, and today I'm gonna continue the story What If Naruto Became the Dark Emperor Part 4. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a big thumbs up, and to watch more videos like this, subscribe to my channel and turn that bell notification on so you never miss an upload. Now wasting no more time, let's begin.
RASENGAN. The melon-sized orb of concentrated chakra had obliterated Sasuke's ANBU armor, exposing him from the waist up, and had sent him flying once more. The mind-numbing effects of maintaining the deadly tempest earlier had sapped the tainted chakra from Orochimaru's cursed seal, causing the black flames to dissipate off Sasuke's body. As Naruto rose to his full height, Hinata moved to his side. You could literally hear a pin drop. Minato Namikaze appeared before those from Konoha who knew him, except he was now a redhead and wore a haori instead of a trench coat. But he was far from it. Sasuke, Sakura yelled as she saw her soon-to-be husband being sledgehammered back by her former teammate. The pink-headed girl shifted her gaze to Naruto. She saw red right away. She let out a feral scream and charged at Naruto, her gloved hand balled into a fist. Sakura, no, Tsunade yelled, restraining her student. Let me go, Tsunade, yelled Sakura. Take a look at what he did to Sasuke. Naruto turned to face the assembled Konoha shinobi, Rinnegan activated. His previous visit to Konoha demonstrated that they were not under Danzu's genjutsu, implying that their hatred for them was genuine. In Naruto's case, this meant that the gloves were now off. Naruto turned off the Rinnegan. Isn't this the reunion? He asked, looking around at his former teammates. Although we're now on opposite sides, he said, glancing at his wife, and here, I thought they'd be happy to see us. Hinata smiled dryly at him. I don't think so, she said. The Emperor you, said Sasuke from his position on the ground. It's true, Kakashi stated as he raised his Hirai-8, revealing the Sharingan. Naruto recognized the Meijin Kaiou. According to the obituary, Uzumaki is the Emperor of the West. The Sannin and the shinobi who had traveled to the west began to connect the dots as the full scope of what had now been revealed to them became clear. Naruto Uzumaki was the Six-Path Sage's descendant. The Rinnegan was wielded by Naruto Uzumaki. Naruto Uzumaki was the Western Empire's emperor. Tsunade's and Jiraiya's eyes narrowed. Until Jiraiya's return from the Western Empire, Naruto would have never ended up in the West. Now that he was back, he posed an even greater threat to Konoha than Orochimaru, Kumo, and Iwa put together. Asuma inquired, how did a dead last like you become Emperor of the West? Thank your father and those two idiots, Naruto said of Jiraiya and Tsunade. When that failed, Tsunade and Jiraiya banished me and tried to kill me by sending Hunter Ninja after Hinata and myself, he said, pulling out a Hiraishin kunai and spinning it from the ring on one finger. These were Naruto's creation, as opposed to his father's tri-bladed Hiraishin kunai. The Hiraishin seals are carved into the blade itself, similar to Lee Christmas throwing kunai. I should have had you executed, raged Tsunade. Damn, I should have killed you the moment you showed up with Jiraiya. That's not how you treat your godson ... or rather, your great-nephew, Naruto responded. How would my parents feel if you broke your promise to look after me after they died? If you want the true perpetrator of the Nine Tails attack on Konoha, it's Obaido himself. Besides, if you kill me, the Nine Tails will kill you in retaliation. You are not the son of Minato and Kushina, Jiraiya retorted. You killed them. You are a demon disguised as a human. Naruto laughed, sending shivers down Sannin's and everyone else's spines. You really need to control your temper, pervy sage, he said. I could have had you and the others killed back in Kimen and your heads sent back to Konoha. But you should be glad I decided to cut some time for this little reunion, he continued, addressing the Sannin. I sense a lot of bad blood between the three of us, and the memories are overwhelming, to be honest. How many crimes have you committed against me and my family? Naruto started counting their crimes on his fingers. First and foremost, you went along with Sarutobai's plan to turn me into a weapon, rather than following my father's final wishes to have me seen as a hero. And what else? What else? Oh, that's right ... The both of you and nearly all of Konohagakure no Sato favored a potential traitor, and banished me for doing my job, he said, his gaze falling on Tsunade and Jiraiya. But the most heinous crime of all was committed by you two. You betrayed me, and by extension, my parents. Betray? Jiraiya asked again. Betray? You're wrong, Naruto. We honored Minato and Kushina. Every single day you suffered growing up in the leaf was to honor their sacrifice in allowing you to live. You were nothing more than a mistake, an accident. Sensei lost his wife, I lost Minato, and Tsunade lost her niece. You were a living reminder of what we had lost. Funny, because I met them a couple of years ago, and they left a portion of their souls inside the seal as a failsafe in case I reach 8 tails or decide to break the seal, Naruto retorted. He gave an evil grin. They are aware of your crimes against me and wanted to inform you that both of you are in big trouble. You lie, exclaimed Tsunade. I never lie. Hag, not about my family or my abilities, Naruto replied. Whether you believe it or not, neither of you betrayed my parents by choosing the leaf over my parents. You are not the Yondame's son, demon, exclaimed an ANBU wearing a hawk mask who had not been separated from the others. Thunk, the porcelain skull was pierced by a kunai. Blood gushed from the wound as the man collapsed, dead before he hit the ground. Kurenai stared in horror at her former student, Hinata, who had tossed the kunai. The Empress consort reached behind her back and pulled out her dual kukri knives, bracing herself for the impending battle. Nice shot, Naruto said to his wife. He cracked his knuckles as the Imperial forces retreated, taking to the roofs because they knew the battle would be fierce. Don't be concerned about my soldiers who are surrounding you. They will not interfere with our Reunion. You've got to be insane to think that the two of you can beat us, Jiraiya said. A banished genin and a missing nin against two of the Sannin and Konoha's best shinobi. You've forgotten who I am, Jiraiya, Naruto said, activating the Rinnegan. I am the unpredictable Konoha shinobi. Oh, wait, I am not a Konoha shinobi. Tsunade saw to that. With a snap of his fingers, a shadow clone appeared. It was supposed to be Naruto, but it wasn't. Naruto wielded the Rinnegan as a direct descendant of the Six-Path Sage, having unlocked it during his fight with Sasuke Uchiha at the Valley of the End. Naruto had honed his skills in the West under Kurama's tutelage. The Six Paths Jutsu was a signature jutsu of anyone who used the Rinnegan. In reality, there were 7 paths, the 7th of which was the Outer Path. Naruto, on the other hand, preferred the other 6 paths because the Outer Path dealt with life and death. Nagato had created his own jutsu, the 6 Paths of Pain, based on the original. Naruto was no exception. Naruto preferred reinforced shadow clones to Nagato's bodies and chakra receivers for his jutsu. These, unlike his normal Kage Bushin, were reinforced and would not dissipate when struck hard enough. They would only disperse if Naruto ordered them to. The Wrath of the Six Paths was Naruto's name for his own variant of the Six Paths Jutsu. Naruto used the Diva Path and incorporated it into his fighting style. Even the shinobi from Konoha found the clone frightening. The hair was spiked up and reddish blonde. His face, eyes, chest, and arms had dark markings. He was naked from the waist up, displaying his muscular physique. He was dressed in a shabby black hakama with a red flame pattern. A pair of greaves were on his shins, one of which was hidden by his hakama and the other tucked into the greave itself. Finally, his arms appeared metallic, as if they were made of an indestructible metal. The Asura path was Naruto's most powerful path. Sasuke rose to his feet ... and then fell back to his knees. Whatever Naruto had thrown at him had sapped his chakra. Dope ... You murdered Itachi and stole my rightful vengeance. Naruto responded with a blah blah motion with his hand. I'll make you beg for mercy, and then I'll take your throne ... and your wife. Uchiha concluded, looking at Hinata. He hadn't forgotten how she nearly cut off his balls in Kimen. But, by all appearances, she was even more powerful than Sakura. The doe will pay, Sasuke reasoned grimly. I'll take his wife as my prize. She will be held accountable for what she attempted to do to me. Yawn. You couldn't beat me in the Valley of the End. You couldn't beat me in T-Country. And I'm 2-0 against you right now, Naruto replied. He gave marching orders to the summoned path. Keep Haddock, Sarutobi, Guy, and Yamato busy, the Sannin are mine, and the ANBU are disposable. Sir, Asura, Naruto yelled, ready to fight. Tsunade clenched her fists. I'm going to have a good time humiliating you in front of your men, she said. You could try, Naruto replied. I'm not the Naruto Uzumaki you exiled. However, before anyone could make a move, a massive broadsword landed blade first between the Konoha group and the Emperor and his wife. As Sasuke and Sakura recognized the blade, Kakashi's eyes widened in horror. Kubikirabacho, the cleaver for chopping heads, and then its owner appeared, standing behind Naruto and Hinata. One was believed to have died while in Wave Country. Zabuza drooled, well. If it's not copycat Haddock, I must have done something right in the past, because today is my lucky day. You ... you should be dead, screamed Sakura. Yet here I am, Zabuza explained. He then turned to Naruto and Hinata. Far be it from me to get involved in both your and the Mrs. Konoha problems, but Haddock and I have unfinished business ... and I've come to play. Chief. Naruto knew exactly what he desired. Zabuza desired the head of Kakashi. Naruto didn't mind because he'd already beaten the crap out of his former sensei in T-Country. Naruto had promised Zabuza that he could kill his former sensei, and he kept his word. He's entirely yours, Zabuza, Naruto declared. Under his bandages, the demon of Kimen smiled as he strode forward to retrieve his sword. "Stay out of this," Kakashi said, pulling out a pair of chakra sabers modeled after his father's and his own white light chakra saber. "This is my battle. Get them," Tsunade demanded. With that, the Konoha Imperial conflict officially began. Naruto, for example, Jiraiya and Tsunade Senju were two of Hiruzen Sarutobai's 3 legendary Sannin students. He was the Mountain Toad Sage, Konoha's resident spymaster, self-proclaimed super pervert, and the trainer of Konoha's Yellow Flash, Minato Namikaze. She was the Slug Princess, the granddaughter and great-niece of Hashirama and Tobirama Senju, a legendary medic nin and healer, as well as one of the best kunoichi in the elemental countries, and the third Senju to hold the position of Hokage. Their adversary was Tsunade's great-nephew, as Kushina Uzumaki was her niece. They had the opportunity to prioritize family over village, to honor Minato and Kushina's final request. Finally, they decided to go along with their former sensei, Hiruzen Sarutobai, in his plans to create Naruto Konoha's weapon. Finally, they decided to abandon their Gotsun, and he was not pleased. To say their former Gotsun was unhappy is to say water country is a little wet. He was the son of Konoha's Yellow Flash and Uzashigakura's princess, also known as the Red Death, and the village hero's wife. He was the Jinchuriki of the Nine-Tails Demon Fox, the last to be banished after it became clear that not only had Sarutobai's plans to condition him failed, but that he could not be controlled. Fate had a nasty habit of biting people on the arse. Sasuke Uchiha attempted to flee Konoha, believing that the village was not assisting him in his quest to assassinate Itachi. Naruto had been exiled and later sentenced to death because he was deemed a threat to the Leaf, Tsunade, and the council, citing the convenient excuse of using excessive force as justification. While Sasuke was training under Danzu, Naruto had fought in a war that had united the West under his rule 7 years before. While Sasuke received the Meijin Kaiō, Naruto was born into the most powerful bloodline, the Rinnegan. While Sasuke had everything handed to him, Naruto had to work and fight for everything he had. The Emperor of the West squared off against the last 2 Sannin. Jiraiya and Tsunade assumed that if the Hunter Nin did not kill Naruto, he would perish without the protection of Konoha. Naruto had no ill will toward the 2 Sannin, and he demonstrated this by making the first move, forcing both Tsunade and Jiraiya to go on the offensive. The Genin turned Emperor charged at the 2 elder shinobi, punching and kicking them. Naruto could have easily won, but he chose not to. He wanted to experience it up close and personal. Tsunade and Jiraiya discovered the hard way that this was not the same brat they had expelled 7 years previously. Naruto, on the other hand, was not holding back, as he tagged Jiraiya and Tsunade with several brutal shots. Sanshi had taught Naruto not only the art of combat, but also the art of tactics, which was why he was able to hold his own against the 2 Sannin. Know your enemy and know yourself, and you can fight 100 battles without dying, Sanshi had told him as a warlord during the Unification Wars. Naruto had witnessed the fight between Tsunade and Jiraiya. Tsunade had her super strength and the slug contract, while Jiraiya had the toads and sage mode on her side. While the seals he had created had done their job of neutralizing the summoning jutsus, Naruto still had to deal with their other abilities. Naruto sidestepped a Rasengan from Jiraiya and slammed him to the ground with a handful of Jiraiya's hair. He missed Tsunade coming in from behind, ready to cave in Naruto's head with a chakra-powered punch to the skull, as he raised one foot to stomp the Toad Sage's head into a fine paste. Imagine her surprise when she discovered that she had destroyed a wooden log rather than Naruto's head. Naruto had escaped the blow and reappeared behind Godame. Tenin Banshu. Tsunade was lifted off her feet and thrown backwards towards Naruto, who caught her and wrapped his arms around her waist. Using the momentum from the Banshu Tenin, he arched his backwards and slammed Tsunade head first into the ground with a vicious belly-to-back waist-lock suplex. Naruto returned to a vertical base and began punching Tsunade in the face repeatedly. Tsunade managed to get her hands up after the first 2 blows in order to block Naruto's onslaught of overhead punches. A battle cry from above had diverted Naruto's attention away from his attempts to punch Godame in the face. Looking up, he noticed that Sasuke had recovered. With Shokudo in hand, he prepared to impale his former teammate. Naruto moved out of the way, while Tsunade rolled out of the way to avoid being impaled on Sasuke's weapon. Naruto squared off against the Prince of Uchiha. Sasuke went on the offensive after spinning Meijin Kaiō. Naruto drew a black Hiraishin kunai and parried and deflected the Uchiha's attacks. Sasuke was forced back to the ground by a backhand followed by a double open palm strike to the breadbasket, just as Naruto's senses went haywire. Spinning around, he saw Tsunade lift an overturned pillar twice his size in her hands, demonstrating her super strength. She yelled and hurled it at Naruto. The Emperor of the West retaliated by leaping up, running across the pillar, leaping off, and kicking the godame in the side of her head, knocking her down. When he turned back to face Sasuke, he saw Jiraiya charging in, headbutting Naruto and pushing him back. Simultaneously, Sasuke, now on his feet, attempted to outflank him from behind. As Jiraiya tried to punch Naruto, he grabbed the last Uchiha and used him as a shield. Instead, the super pervert smacked Sasuke in the head. Naruto pushed Jiraiya aside and tossed Sasuke into Tsunade. Naruto took out a scroll, opened it, and stained some of his blood on it, activating the scroll. From his vantage point on the ground, Sasuke noticed a storage scroll containing Naruto's signature weapon, the Okatana. He wielded an Okatana forged from metal found inside a meteorite. The blade regarded as indestructible and incredibly sharp, as well as highly adaptable to chakra. Naruto discovered it on his way back from a campaign in the north. The sword was hidden in a cave deep within the Lodja Mountains. That, and over 400 cases of gold bars, which he used to fund his unification campaign and later to build the empire. Sasuke examined the sword before retrieving his own Chikaudo. "Nice sword," he commented. "I'll take that off your hands as well. You are not deserving of such a weapon. It would be better suited for me, dope." Naruto took out his weapon. "You are unworthy of this sword, Uchiha. The sword recognizes me as its master, and it will reject you." Jiraiya, now fully recovered, noticed Naruto was preoccupied with Sasuke and activated Sage Mode. He created an Odama Rasengan using his Senjutsu. Sage Mode gave him an increase in speed, which he used to charge at Naruto from behind. Jiraiya's attempt to kill Naruto with his father's signature move made Naruto smirk. He said, "Imperial style, flash step," without breaking eye contact with Sasuke. Even with the Sharingan activated, Sasuke couldn't keep up with Naruto's movements, because he moved so quickly, as Jiraiya discovered the hard way. Jiraiya discovered that his Rasengan had gone through an after image of his former Gotsen instead of impaling Naruto. Naruto emerged from the technique, his sword raised above his head, his intentions clear. Slash, thump. Jiraiya's outstretched arm dropped to the ground, the Odama Rasengan dissipating and its chakra depleted. Jiraiya's surprise was short-lived, as Naruto kicked him in the breadbasket, knocking him back, blood erupting like a geyser from his stump. Sasuke stood there, stunned, as his brain processed what Naruto had done. Tsunade yelled, "Jiraiya!" after seeing Naruto amputate the super arm. Her face twisted in rage. She jumped to her feet, ready to attack once more, but Naruto stopped her. "Ah, Senju, I'd be more concerned about your teammate than I would about myself," Naruto said, looking at Jiraiya. "He's going into shock from the blood loss. I'd give him 10-20 minutes tops before he bleeds out without treatment," he said casually, as if discussing the weather. "So, do you want to fight me and let Jiraiya bleed to death, or do you want to avoid fighting me and save his life?" Tsunade turned to face Jiraiya, then back to Naruto. She gritted her teeth, knowing that the battle between herself and Jiraiya against Naruto was over because he was correct. She turned away from the Emperor and began to save Jiraiya's life, fearing that he would bleed to death. She was out of the fight because she had an injured and dead shinobi on her hands. Returning his attention to Sasuke, who had quickly recovered from his shock at witnessing one of the most powerful Sannin being crushed so easily, he brought his sword into a ready stance. "What were we doing?" As he raised his Chokyudo, Sasuke smirked. "I was planning on demonstrating to everyone here why I am an elite, but I think Emperor of the West would suit me better than a dobe like you." "You always liked the sound of your own voice, Sasuke, didn't you?" Naruto asked as they circled. "Face it, you wouldn't last 5 minutes in the Empire. You are second best." That enraged Sasuke. "You think you're the only one who knows how to use a sword. I was taught by the best in Konoha, Deku style." Naruto raised his sword in a formal salute. "Then show me, Sasuke Uchiha, and we'll see if the so-called Uchiha elite can stand up to the Emperor of the Six Paths." The duel had officially begun. Hinata's company. In addition to Kurenai and Cell 8, Sakura Haruno faced Hinata Hyuga. The shy, meek, insecure shinobi who had Neji's ass handed to her was no longer there. She was replaced by a medic nin forged in the crucible of the Unification Wars. Sakura cursed herself for not realizing sooner that the former Hyuga heiress was not only the Empress consort, but also the head of the medic nin program. However, as Sakura discovered as she and Kurenai's team surrounded Hinata, Hinata was now an unknown. She wasn't the insecure genin who had her a $sign handed to her by her older cousin. Because she was Naruto's wife, she was the Empress Consort of the West. Whatever, Sakura snorted, bracing herself for the inevitable fight. I trained with Tsunade. I am her true heir to the throne of Sannin. Hino, not that pig. Hinata will soon discover this for herself. Sakura would find out how wrong she was when Hinata knocked her out in 10 hits, knocking her out cold and sealing her Tenketsu points. Kurenai gave the attack order. Hinata calmly countered her former teammates' attacks. Kurenai had hoped for an easy win with her signature tree-binding death jutsu, only to discover that Hinata's enhanced Byakugan had neutralized it. Shino attempted to drain her chakra and force Naruto to surrender, only to have Hinata incinerate the tornado of Kakachu with the deadly tempest. Hinata then threw several senbon needles laced with a slow-acting poison at Shino. The poison wasn't lethal, but it was designed to attack Shino's nervous system, which meant he'd be out of commission for a while ... and he'd need plenty of time to recover. The fight was now 3-on-1, with Inuzuka and his dog, now impersonating Kiba, and Kurenai opposing Hinata. As they had discovered, the Empress Consort had some new tricks, as what remained on Cell 8 discovered the hard way. Kurenai attacked from behind while Hinata was distracted by Kiba and Akamaru. She had kunai in her hand, ready to stab Hinata in the back. Chitin, 8 trigrams. Smek. Kurenai was familiar with the Hyuga's Chitin, or rotation. She had seen Neji Hyuga use it against Naruto Uzumaki during the Chunin exams, so she knew it was a defensive move designed to deflect any type of projectile. Hinata, on the other hand, had turned it into an offensive weapon. Hinata spun on her heels, her body covered from head to toe in chakra, waves of chakra emerging from her body. Kurenai found herself propelled into the air as if she had taken one of Tsunade's super punches to the face. A volley of poison senbon needles quickly followed and struck its target, leaving Kurenai in the same condition as Shino. She collapsed to the ground after being removed from the fight, leaving Kiba and Akamaru to face Hinata. Kiba and Akamaru struck while Hinata was preoccupied with Kurenai. Gatsuga. When Hinata's back was turned, she knew Kiba wasn't above cheap shots. After all, they were ninja. Knowing how the Gatsuga worked firsthand, Hinata performed a second rotation, knocking Kiba and Akamaru out of the move and knocking them both to the ground. Kiba and Akamaru rose to their feet, but they noticed the ever-familiar 8 trigrams pattern beneath them, which meant only one thing. "You're within my range, Kiba," Hinata said. "Aw, crap," Kiba grumbled. Hinata struck both Kiba and Akamaru while moving faster than the human eye can track. She divided the 64 palms in half, striking Kiba 32 times and Akamaru 32 times. Kiba discovered that Hinata had upgraded the 64 palms to tear muscle and break bones based on the sealed chakra points, broken leg, fractured wrist, and broken ribs. Kiba realized he was out of the fight. Akamaru would be spending time at the kennels with Hana. Despite this, he considered himself fortunate that Hinata did not despise him. Worst case scenario, she could have killed both him and Akamaru. "You could have been gentler on us," Kiba bemoaned. "I did it, but I didn't kill you," Hinata responded. "Despite the fact that you asked me out when we were kids, you were the nicest to me. This is a one-time thing," Inuzuka. Hinata bowed out of the fight after her former cell was effectively neutralized. Together with Kakashi and Zabuza. Zabuza Mamachi was thought to have died in Wave Country 7 years before. Of course, Kakashi had embellished the reports on the mission's events. He claimed that Sasuke and Sakura defended Tazuna while he himself dispatched Zabuza. Naruto, being the last man standing, did nothing. But he had no idea that Zabuza and his partner had used a supercharged blood clone to flee to the west as the Mist Hunter ninjas closed in. In the 7 years since their last meeting, Zabuza had joined a group of Mist refugees in the southern region and later joined Naruto in his quest to unite the West. Zabuza's asking price. The head of Kakashi headache. Aside from Kakashi, Zabuza had to deal with the 10 ANBU who had come to aid the Sharingan-wielding shinobi in his mission to kill the demon of Kimen. Or rather, the 5 ANBU, as Zabuza had slaughtered them without batting an eye, demonstrating to Kakashi that Zabuza's skills had greatly improved in the years since his death, wielding his oversized sword as if it were a regular katana. The remaining ANBU stood back and watched Kakashi and Zabuza engage in a life-or-death duel. Kakashi had assumed that without water to allow Zabuza to perform his jutsu, this would be a simple match for him to win, and that Zabuza would die for real. But, for someone who once preached look beneath the underneath, he had underestimated the former Mist swordsman, who found himself on the defensive in the face of Zabuza's onslaught of attacks. The fight between the two shinobi had been relocated inside a building. If Kakashi and the others had paid attention, they would have noticed that the structure in question was a damaged restaurant, a popular Suna eatery for both shinobi and civilians. Perfect for Zabuza, as he could finally use his silent kill to get rid of the bothersome ANBU who were hovering nearby. Zabuza pulled out several smoke bombs and threw them at Kakashi and the ANBU once they were inside. Zabuza went back into the kitchen once they were sufficiently distracted. Be on your guard. Zabuza could be anywhere. Kakashi managed to stay out in the dining area despite several coughing fits. Zabuza's laughter rang out throughout the establishment. You got that right, Headache. I am everywhere and nowhere at the same time, his disembodied voice said. The heart ... the lungs ... the spine ... the brain ... the liver ... the kidneys ... and the jugular, the body's 7 most vital spots. Be careful, Kakashi cautioned the ANBU accompanying him. He is the silent killer's master. Too late, Zabuza's voice said as the smoke cleared. Your friends have all died. When Kakashi looked around, he saw the bodies of the 5 ANBU sprawled across the floor. Then, from behind, Zabuza appeared, hoping to take Kakashi's head in one swing. Instead, the demon of Kimen split a log in half. Zabuza turned around and deflected several kunai thrown at him by Kakashi. The two men quickly locked blades. Come on, Headache, Zabuza encouraged. All I want to do is take a little off the top. The sword fight resumed, with Zabuza crushing Kakashi's defenses. Kakashi broke the deadlock by unleashing a great fireball jutsu, which Zabuza managed to block, giving him enough time to unleash. Kamui, Naruto and Asura, Yamato, Asuma, Madogai, and 30 ANBU from the impromptu arena charged at Naruto. However, Asura and Naruto stood in their way. I'm going to have a good time with this, Asura Naruto said as he prepared to attack. All 10 of them aided Kakashi in his fight against Zabuza. The remaining 10 remained loyal to their ANBU commander. Spread out, exclaimed Yamato. Give him several targets. He can't take on all of us. I got him, Asuma exclaimed as he passed through the hand seals that Asura Naruto recognized. Snake, rat, snake, tiger, fire release, ash pile burning, he exclaimed before enveloping Asura Naruto in a cloud of chakra-enhanced gunpowder. Asuma Sarutobi was the son of Hiruzen and Biwako Sarutobi, a former member of the 12 Guardian Ninja and a top shinobi in Konoha, so he expected an easy victory over what was then the village's dead last. Asuma had read the Naruto files because he was aware of his father's plans for the Uzumaki. He was one of many people who had abused him as a child. His training had been hampered by the Shinobi Academy. Even Konohamaru's friendship with him was a ruse designed by the Sandaime to make Naruto fall in love with the village. The only thing he had against him was that he was the Jinchuriki and knew about the shadow clones. The cloud of gunpowder suddenly blew back towards the ANBU and the Jounin as Asuma began to make the hand seals for a fire jutsu. Guy's eyes widened when he noticed a single sheet of paper fluttering in the dark cloud. A piece of paper with a complex pattern of writing centered on a single word, explosive. Move, exclaimed the spandex-clad Jounin. Tag is exploding. Asuma, Yamato, Guy, and Yamato, along with 5 other ANBU, managed to get out of the way just as the tag detonated, killing the other 5 ANBU in a violent explosion. Naruto Asura smiled. Asuma had apparently forgotten, or did not listen to Kakashi, that his primary element was wind. So blowing back the gunpowder with a wind jutsu followed by an explosive tag was simple enough, causing Asuma's initial plan to literally blow up in their faces. With their tantos drawn, the remaining 5 ANBU charged at Asura Naruto, who charged back. Asuma and the others looked on in horror as Asura Naruto knocked the attacking ANBU aside as if they weren't worth the effort. Based on the unusual angles and the blood pooling from their bodies, it was safe to assume they died instantly. Asuma pulled out his trench knives and focused his chakra on the blades. Guy took the weights off his legs. Yamato launched his Tanto attack first, only to discover that it had no effect on Asura Naruto at all. Asuma charged in, hoping that the flying swallow would do enough damage to Naruto. Asura Naruto blocked the attack with his forearm as Asuma slashed at him. Sparks flew from the metallic arms, but Asuma was surprised to see no damage. That's not possible, Asuma pondered. The flying swallow can sever steel. Asura Naruto cocked his head to the side, amused. Is that your best, Sarutobi? He mockingly asked. Asuma retaliated with a punch to the face, which Asura Naruto calmly caught with one hand. Guy used this opportunity to blindside Asura Naruto from the side and attempt a bum rush. Asura Naruto's hand lashed out and caught Guy's neck in an iron grip without breaking eye contact. Asura Naruto turned to face Guy, having lifted one foot off the ground. Wait your turn, he said, tossing him into Yamato, who attempted to attack while he was distracted. The green beast of Konoha and the ANBU captain with the Makauten collided in a heap, leaving Asura Naruto to deal with Asuma, who had caught his other wrist when the Sandame's son tried to punch him yet again. Asura Naruto looked at the trench knife before returning his gaze to a defiant Asuma. Those knives, he reflected. I recall you attempting to kill me with them when I was 6. You murdered my mother, you demon bastard. I should have killed you when you were a baby, exclaimed Asuma. Typical, Asura Naruto remarked just before. Crunch. Suna was filled with the sound of bones breaking. The sound made the Inoshika-cho trio in Cell 9 inside the Kazekage Tower cringe. Naruto crushed both Asuma's hand and the trench knife with it, rendering both his hand and the trench knife useless. Asura Naruto threw Asuma to the ground, his trench knife and hand mangled and bloodied. Naruto snapped his arm at the elbow when he brought his other hand to bear. Naruto's knee smashed into Asuma's face, breaking his nose and knocking him unconscious as he sank to his knees. Guy yelled as he unlocked 4 of the 8 gates. Damn you, you unyouthful demon. Asura Naruto pushed Asuma aside and called out to Guy. Come ... so I can put an end to you, he said. Guy, like Asuma, was guilty of assaulting him in his youth. Guy was charged by Asura Naruto. ... only to be encased in a tree by Yamato and his tree-binding flourishing burial. Did that do it? Yamato asked himself as he stood, fully aware of the Makauten's ability to control the power of a Biju. Did that put him off? Asura Naruto replied from within the tree, no, it did not. Fire release, deadly tempest. Yamato and Guy watched in horror as the massive tree was reduced to carbon from within, followed by Asura Naruto charging out of the destroyed tree, which collapsed onto itself, his intended target now clear. Yamato was the victim of a metallic fist crashing against his jaw, breaking it in 3 places, followed by a kick to the sternum that sent him crashing through a wall, rendering him inoperable. Guy moved in to fight Asura Naruto after unlocking 7 of the 8 gates. With Asuma and Yamato out of the picture, it was up to him to defeat the demon. You will pay for your unyouthfulness, demon. Guy yelled as he threw Asura Naruto high above Suna. As Guy charged after him, he used the reverse lotus, unleashing a vicious barrage of punches and kicks. Anyone who had witnessed Guy and his former student perform the reverse lotus would recall that the technique was completed by either Guy or Lee hitting their opponent with 1 fist and 1 foot, resulting in terminal velocity for the unfortunate person on the receiving end. That was not going to happen. As Guy prepared to deliver the final blow, Asura Naruto vanished ... and reappeared behind Guy. With his hands interlocked and raised over his head, Asura Naruto delivered a vicious hammer punch to the green beast of Konoha, sending him back to Suna, where he left an impact crater. But Asura Naruto was far from finished. When Asura Naruto returned to the streets via Shunshin, he approached Guy, who was struggling to get back to his feet after unlocking the 7 gates had depleted most of his chakra. Asura Naruto triumphantly looked down on the fallen Guy. Isn't it fun when the demon brat fights back? He mocked as Guy tried to crawl away. You sent me to the hospital numerous times after using me as a punching bag for your Gauken techniques, he said, raising one sandaled foot. You thought I'd forgotten, didn't you? Please, Naruto ... show mercy, Guy begged. The gods show mercy, but I show none to those who tried to kill me as a child, Asura Naruto said before slamming it down on Guy's spine. Guy screamed as his spinal cord snapped in multiple places. Your shinobi career is over, Mato Guy. Try to get Tsunade to repair your back. Mato Guy whimpered as he tried but failed to use his legs. The pain became too much for him, and he passed out. Asura Naruto felt a tinge of vengeance as he looked around at the carnage. His fight was over. He dispersed himself with a poof. Naruto and Sasuke together. Sasuke Uchiha was enraged. He belonged to the Uchiha clan, an aristocrat, one of Konoha's most powerful shinobi. He was armed with the Meijin Kaiu Sharingan. Kakashi Hadake and Danzu Shimura both trained him. Konoha had all recognized his power. Then there was his ex-colleague, the dead last, the Kyuubi Jinchuriki, the demon of Konoha. The fox in human skin Naruto was pardoned after he was exiled. Despite his defeat, Sasuke claimed greatness, claiming that Naruto would have lost if it hadn't been for the 9 tails in his body. However, unlike Sasuke, who was given anything and everything he desired, Naruto had to work hard for what he had. While Sasuke lived a relatively peaceful life as Konoha's prince, Naruto fought in the West, forging alliances and forging an empire under his rule, bringing about a peace not seen since the 6 Paths Sage's time. Simply put, Naruto had surpassed the self-proclaimed elite Uchiha. Naruto would admit that he had struck gold in the Valley of the End. However, after their fight in Tea Country, it was clear that Naruto was the stronger of the two. and Sasuke was enraged when he realized the Emperor and the Dobe were the same person. Naruto had no problem combining it with his own blade, which was why he and the Uchiha were currently engaged in a vicious sword duel. Naruto effectively neutralized both Jiraiya and Tsunade. The Emperor versus the elite, Sharingan versus Rinnegan. How do you get so damn strong? Snarled Sasuke as he and Naruto locked blades. You can't be this strong, Dobe. I'm a Uchiha. That strength should be mine. I earned my strength through hard work, and even now, I don't use my Rinnegan as a crutch, Naruto replied, right before headbutting the Uchiha and knocking him to the ground with a roundhouse to the jaw. That is the difference between us. There is no hatred, only passion, and I find strength through passion. As he spoke, Naruto continued to deflect and parry Sasuke's attacks, reciting what Sanshi had told him when he first learned the ways of the samurai. Through strength, I gain knowledge, and through knowledge, I gain serenity, he said, busting his lip. There is no chaos within me, only harmony, and it is through harmony that I gain victory, and it is through victory that my chains are broken. You talk way too much, exclaimed Sasuke, and you have learned nothing. Naruto responded as the battle heated up. The two former teammates turned enemies' flurry of swordplay. Sasuke's shinobi swordplay and Naruto's samurai and mist swordsmanship heated up until the two men were locked in a second blade lock. Your power ... give it to me, exclaimed the Prince of Uchiha, activating the Sharingan. Naruto broke the blade lock with a headbutt to Sasuke, then planted both feet into Sasuke's chest, knocking him backwards. Naruto drew his Okatana. You're not going to win, Sasuke, he said as his opponent rose to his feet. You'd be better off just giving up. I've long since surpassed you, as I demonstrated at the Valley of the End, as I demonstrated again in T-Country, and as I demonstrated here. I have nothing else to prove to you. Sasuke's eyes were shut. No, Dobe, you're mistaken. As he watched bloody tears flow from his eyes, Naruto had a pretty good idea of what was going to happen next. He braced himself for Sasuke's final trick. The Majinkaiju Sharingan was revealed when Sasuke's eyes opened. Amaterasu, prove to me that you can die. The most powerful of the fire release jutsu, and the most powerful jutsu that a Uchiha can master. The Amaterasu flames are said to be the fires of hell. Hot as the sun and unavoidable, capable of burning everything in its path and reducing whatever is caught in the flames to nothing but ash. In response to Sasuke's attack, Naruto activated his Rinnegan, returning to the Diva path. Shinra, TNSEI. As the black flames were extinguished, Sasuke's eyes were filled with shock. He raised his hands in a futile attempt to block the incoming pressure wave, only to find himself on the receiving end of the Shinra Tensei, Naruto's jutsu flinging him back into a wall. Naruto swooped down on him in an instant. Sasuke had coughed up blood after taking a punch to the sternum. Naruto then unleashed a vicious barrage of punches into Sasuke's chest and torso, his body jerking like a rag doll with each blow. Naruto delivered the knockout blow by punching Sasuke through the wall. Looks like I won again, Naruto smugly said. Naruto walked back into the street, away from the mangled Uchiha. Then he came to a halt and turned around. Despite his injuries, Sasuke stumbled out of the hole Naruto had created with his body. Dobe ... we ... art. Finished yet. I'll give you this much. You're persistent, Naruto admitted, but the battle is over. You lost. The Sannin lost. Damn you, snarled Sasuke as the cursed seal kicked into high gear as he entered stage 2 of the cursed seal. His skin turned a dark gray color, and his lips turned blue. The black 4-point star-like mark appeared above the bridge of his nose, between his eyes. His hair had grown longer, reaching his waist. The Sharingan was no longer in the eyes. The sclera had turned black, and the irids had turned yellow. Last but not least were his large webbed hand-shaped wings on his back. Naruto, screamed Sasuke as he leapt into the air before diving at Naruto, claws outstretched, ready to rip Naruto apart. Had Sasuke been paying attention, he would have noticed Naruto's smirk, or the chakra-infused lightning ball in his hand. Chidori in Imperial style. Sasuke's eyes bulged out of their sockets as Naruto nailed him with Kakashi's signature assassination jutsu. Retaliation for Sasuke's previous actions. The Uchiha prince screamed as electricity coursed through his body, messing with his chakra and nervous systems ... and leaving a fist-sized hole in his shoulder. The same spot where Sasuke had done to Naruto years before, not to mention revealing his skeleton to those watching the fight. Sasuke was sent sailing back to the mangled remains of Konoha's shinobi by the Chidori's force. Tsunade and Sakura had a lot on their plates. Sakura wanted to pursue Naruto, but Tsunade had ordered her to stay behind to assist with the injured. Asuma's hand was mangled and his other arm was broken. Hinata had poisoned Kurenai and Shino, and Kiba and Akamaru had several broken bones. Dai's shinobi career was effectively over after his back was shattered. Yamato's bones were also broken, and Jiraiya's arm was severed. This fight was over. You used the Chidori on me back in the Valley of the End, Naruto said as Sasuke regained consciousness. Think about us. He shifted his gaze away from Tsunade and the others. Hinata walked over to properly greet her husband after watching the fight from the sidelines. However, in her haste, she missed seeing Kakashi emerge from the restaurant where he had just finished fighting Zabuza. Given Naruto's victory, Kakashi did the only thing he could. He was after Naruto's wife, Rikiri. Naruto noticed that Kakashi had his sights set on Hinata. If Konoha was defeated in this conflict, the Emperor would be without his wife. Kakashi was quick, but Naruto was even faster. Just as Kakashi's Raikiri struck Naruto square in the chest, he performed a flash step, closing the distance and shoving Hinata out of the way. Sharing and spinning, Kakashi realized he hadn't killed Hinata, but he had captured Naruto. Despite their injuries, Tsunade and Jiraiya regarded the scene with grim satisfaction. Perhaps Minato and Kushina can finally rest in peace now that their killer is no longer alive. The Empire would be deprived of their emperor as a result of this act. I got you, demon, grumbled Kakashi. I've finally gotten you. However, Naruto's expression was one of amusement rather than disbelief that Kakashi had attempted to kill him. As Naruto rushed to intercept Kakashi's Raikiri, he activated the Preta path, allowing him to take the full brunt of Kakashi's Raikiri without dying. As Naruto absorbed the jutsu, Kakashi's triumphant expression changed to one of total surprise. Tsunade and Jiraiya could see that Naruto was still alive and well. Because of this development, Kakashi was unaware of his impending doom from behind. Thwack! Kakashi's eyes widened in pain. Looking down, he noticed the familiar shape of a massive sword protruding from his chest. Kakashi's eyes widened in horror as he recognized the blood-stained blade. Kyubikirabacho. No. Zabuza yanked his blade from behind Kakashi, having gotten the better of Naruto's former sensei. I've got you covered, Haddock. Zabuza. How? Exclaimed Kakashi. Zabuza had only said, water clone. You really thought you suckered me, didn't you? You forgot about my water clones, didn't you? During the fight inside the restaurant, Zabuza went into the kitchen, broke the sink, and used the water to create a reinforced water clone, which he sent after Zabuza. Naruto had warned him about the Sharingan's abilities, and the demon of Kimen was glad he had heeded the Emperor's advice. He only had to wait for the right moment to strike. It arrived when Kakashi attempted to kill Naruto with the Raikiri. As Kakashi turned around and looked into the face of the man thought to have been sent to the other dimension by the Kamui, Naruto and Hinata backed up several steps. Kakashi stared into the eyes of his executioner. He was dead either way, because the wound delivered by Zabuza was fatal. Your sentence is death, Haddock, for the crimes of betraying both the Uzumaki clan and my father, Naruto declared coldly. Turning to Kakashi, he said goodbye to his former sensei as Zabuza raised Kyubikirabacho, relishing the look of horror mixed with fear as he knew what was coming. We all die, Haddock, but when you die, something far worse awaits you. The head-chopping cleaver's blade slashed through flesh, muscle, and bone. Kakashi's head dropped forward as the body collapsed, the stump spilling blood in the street, the body twitching before finally coming to a halt. Kakashi Haddock was no longer alive, which means you die without honor, Naruto concluded. He asked Zabuza, are you happy now? Zabuza gave a nod. Very. Naruto moved his gaze to the injured Konoha shinobi. Following the Chidori to the chest, Sasuke had reverted to human form and was being cared for by Sakura. When Hinata gave the signal, the Imperial forces rushed to the scene, weapons drawn. Our battle is over here, Naruto declared. Take your wounded and get out of my way. Tsunade, who had now calmed Jiraiya, looked at her former godson. This isn't over yet, Naruto, exclaimed the godame. On your end, this is nothing but petty hatred and vengeance. For the time being, it's over, Naruto responded. You call it hatred. I call it retribution. You call it vengeance. This is justice. But this is only the beginning, you hack. This is the beginning of the end for the Leaf. Go back to Konoha and tell them that the dead last has returned. Tell them that just as the yellow flash brought Konoha's rise to power, the Emperor of the Six Paths will bring Konoha's reckoning. Tsunade desired to fight until the bitter end, to die fighting. However, Jiraiya required immediate medical attention, and her jounin were severely injured. The Imperial forces parted, allowing the beaten and injured Konoha shinobi to pass through with the help of the surviving jounin who had been kept from the battle at Blade Point. Tsunade giving Naruto one final hate-filled glare before putting the cage-style hat back on his head and walking away from the battle, Hinata by his side. As Tsunade and the Konoha shinobi left Suna, a fourth party unknown to Konoha, Suna, or the Imperial West, escaped. A shinobi with white hair and glasses. Several days later, I arrived in Otagakyur, Rice Country. Orochimaru was going over some notes about his new test subjects in his laboratory when Kabuto came running in, out of breath. "You're a week late, Kabuto. I hope you have a very good reason for being behind schedule," he said without looking up from his notes. The Snake Sage had directed Kabuto to look into the Akatsuki's movements, which led him to Suna. Kabuto had witnessed both Deidara and Sasori's deaths at the hands of the Emperor and Empress Consort while disguised as a Suna Jounin. But before Kabuto could leave, Suna was declared a state of emergency, and the civilians were evacuated to several safe havens. When the Akatsuki attacked, Kabuto was forced to fight alongside Suna and the Imperial forces against the Six Paths and their 100,000 white Zetsu army. Kabuto witnessed firsthand how the Imperial forces, shinobi and samurai, fought. He also got a good look at how the Imperial Medic Corps operated. Most importantly, he knew the Emperor and his wife's identities, as well as their connection to Konoha. The Western Empire was unknown to Orochimaru. 6 months earlier, he had dispatched Kabuto to investigate the Pakara outpost in Wind Country. What Kabuto had discovered was that a high-ranking official and his wife had inspected the Pakara branches in the elemental countries. He had to admit, grudgingly, that the Imperials were formidable, particularly the commander of the Man in Black's elite unit of bodyguards. "I know I'm behind schedule," Kabuto grumbled. "There has been an advancement. The Akatsuki has been destroyed." That piqued the interest of Orochimaru. "Explain," and Kabuto informed him of what had occurred. He told his master about the Akatsuki invasion of Suna, how Konan and the Six Paths led the surviving Akatsuki and 100,000 white Zetsu clones against a joint force of Suna shinobi and 4 battalions of Imperial shinobi and samurai, and how the joint Suna Imperial forces won despite being outnumbered 2-1. "There's more," Kabuto said. "I know who the Akatsuki mastermind is. It was not Nagato, as we had assumed. You knew him as Tobai. But his real name is Abaida Uchiha." Orochimaru was taken aback. "There were 2 Uchihas in the Akatsuki ... Interesting ... Keep going." "The Akatsuki were slaughtered to the last man," Kabuto explained. "Hidden, Kazuku, Konan, Nagato, Itachi Uchiha and Kasama Hoshigaki. Abaida was captured alive and will be executed if he is sent to the Western Empire." One that's less headache for me," said Snake Sanin. "Is there anything else?" Kabuto smiled. "Yes, the Emperor and his wife. I know who they are," he said, not wanting to keep his master guessing. "The Emperor is Sasuke Uchiha's former teammate, the Kyuubi Jinchuriki, who was banished for doing his job." If Orochimaru was surprised before, this was the icing on the cake. "Are you saying the Emperor himself is Naruto Uzumaki, the last man standing?" Kabuto gave a nod. His parents were the Red Death and Sarutobai's successor. That made Orochimaru think. He was aware of Tsunade's family history involving the Uzumaki and the Senju as a former Konoha shinobi, and 1/3 of the legendary Sannin. Mito Uzumaki was Hashirama Senju's wife, and Tsunade was her granddaughter. Tsunade's niece was Kushina Uzumaki. Kabuto noticed right away. Tsunade's great-nephew is Naruto Uzumaki. Orochimaru laughed. In her infinite wisdom, Tsunade banished her great-nephew. They screwed over the Six Path Sage. So who is his wife? The former Hyuga heiress, Hinata Hyuga. From what I've learned, she is the founder of the Western Empire's Imperial Medic program there, which, I hate to say, is a lot more advanced. And speaking of Tsunade, Orochimaru finally stopped laughing. What? She came to Suna hoping to get back on Gaara's good side in fighting with Suna, and to try and negotiate an alliance with the Emperor. She came to Suna hoping to get back on Gaara's good side in fighting with Suna, and to try and negotiate an alliance with the Emperor. Backing her up was Jiraiya, several of their senior Jounin, and several of Naruto's former teammates, including Sasuke Uchiha. Uzumaki has gotten strong. I'm sure the reunion didn't go so well, Orochimaru speculated. An understatement, Kabuto responded. Out of everyone, Mato Gai, Asuma Sarutobi, Jiraiya, and Sasuke had it the worst. Sarutobi suffered a broken hand and broken arm. Mato Gai ... Well, his shinobi career is effectively over. Jiraiya lost his arm, and Sasuke, despite using the cursed seal, ended up with a Chidori in his chest. Did Uzumaki do it all? Orochimaru inquired. Well, it's a good thing he hates Konoha as much as I do. Orochimaru added as an afterthought. I actually feel a little better with him not agreeing to our alliance, let alone losing to his captain of the guard. Kakashi Hadake is no longer alive, Kabuto reported. Didn't Naruto kill him? No, the demon of the mist, Zabuza Mamichi, took his head. Orochimaru took a moment to process everything that had happened. If there is one thing I can count on, it is that dear Sasuke cannot stand the fact that someone like Naruto is stronger than him, so I may be able to get my body just yet. Should I form a retrieval team to apprehend him from Tsunade and the others? No, I'll wait a little longer. How do you feel about Naruto in the Western Empire? Orochimaru paused for a moment to consider it. It's clear that we're not on Naruto and Hinata's radar, and that they despise Konoha as much as we do, so we'll leave them and their merchants behind for the time being, and send word to the Raikage that Uzumaki and the Western Empire are off limits. His smile darkened. But if Sasuke refuses to join me, I can always pretend to be emperor. At the same time, Konohagakure no Sado, Tsunade and the remnants of her forces had returned to Konoha at midnight. Since then, she and Shizune had been hard at work stabilizing the badly injured shinobi, even going so far as to take a soldier pill to keep working. Shizune and Sakura had been tasked, along with the doctors, with treating the injured shinobi and compiling a casualty list of the ANBU who had been killed while she was busy with Jiraiya. Dawn, Konoha Hospital. Tsunade, who had just finished treating Jiraiya, received reports from Shizune and Sakura. 16 ANBU dead, Sakura reported as she handed a scroll to Tsunade. Kakashi Hadekiya is their name. Tsunade grimaced and nodded. She had brought 200 Jounin-level shinobi to Suna, but when Naruto and Hinata used their forces to prevent them from interfering at Blade and Jutsu Point, the remaining Jounin had no choice but to comply because they were outnumbered and outmatched. Tsunade discovered them outside Suna and ordered them to assist with the injured and deceased. After demoting them to Chunin, they were not permitted to take Kakashi's body because it had been burned in one of the many pyres outside of Suna. What about the others? Tsunade inquired. Shizune reviewed her notes. Among those attacked by Uzumaki and his wife, Kurenai Sarutobi and Shino Aburame were affected by an unknown type of poison that causes the chakra and nervous systems to go haywire. It's not lethal, but it's extremely effective. Did you get any samples? Tsunade inquired. Sakura's head shook. Despite taking blood samples from both Sarutobi and Aburame, there was no poison in their system. In any case, both of them will be out of commission for about a week until they recover. Given what happened to the others, they got off lucky. What about the others? Shizune reported. First up is Mato Gai. There was too much damage from where Uzumaki crushed his spine. He will never be able to walk again. His shinobi career is over. Tsunade grimaced and nodded. Continue. Suma Sarutobi's right hand was crushed, as was his trench knife, which proved difficult for the doctors to remove without having to remove the hand entirely, Shizune explained. We were able to save his hand, but every bone in his finger has been broken, and he also has a broken left arm at the elbow. He'll be out of commission for several months. Sakura kept going after that. Kiba Inuzuka has several broken bones, including those in his left leg, a broken radius, and a broken wrist, and Akamaru has been placed in the care of the Inuzuka vets. Yamato's jaw is broken in 3 places, and he has a fractured chest bone. Sasuke Uchiha was the worst off, with a Chidori-sized hole in his chest. Half of his ribs are either broken or fractured, and Tsunade inquired, how long will he be out? A month, maybe a month and a half, Sakura replied. How about you? Are you alright? That brat concussed me when he suplexed me, grumbled Tsunade. Jiraiya ... we couldn't save his arm. He died on me twice, but I was able to revive him, she grumbled. How the hell did he get so powerful? Sensei made sure we conditioned him, not to mention stunted his growth. He was always the one who was unpredictable, Sakura admitted. He outperformed Kiba and Neji in the exams. He shouldn't have that much power, Sakura, Shizune pointed out. Such power could be used against us in the long run. And if there's one thing I've learned about the Uzumaki, it's that they never forget who wrongs them. You forget that Maito was my grandmother, and I am also of the Uzumaki, Tsunade pointed out. But first and foremost, I am a Senju. Naruto has made it clear that he is a major threat to the Leaf, as evidenced by the bodies of Haddock and the ANBU slam. Monitor Jiraiya and the others. I must inform the council that Uzumaki and the West are now a certified threat. Shizune and Sakura exchanged nods as Tsunade walked down the corridor. Hours later, beneath Konohagakure, Danzo Shimura was enraged inside his inner sanctum. His body was leaking killer intent as the Sharingan in his eye spun. The darkness of Shinobi had just returned from an emergency council meeting, where Tsunade had delivered some devastating news. Naruto Uzumaki was the Western Emperor. The Kyuubi brat, the last man standing, was the most powerful man on the Western continent. Naruto Uzumaki, who murdered Hinura and Koharu over a year ago, Naruto Uzumaki, the same Naruto Uzumaki who had rendered him helpless inside his own underground chambers. Naruto Uzumaki, the same Naruto Uzumaki who can lead an army into Konoha and crush it under his heel. People change in the 7 years after their exile, as Danzu's co-conspirators discovered the hard way. When the revelation was made, the council was in uproar. The civilian council wanted Tsunade to declare war on the empire, and thus on their allies in spring, water, and wind. The clans rejected the idea because they would be outnumbered 5-1. But Danzu was powerless to intervene because Naruto still had the evidence pertaining to the stolen bloodlines on his person, lest he incur the wrath of the God Aim and the last Uchiha. He could only plan now. 3 weeks had passed since the end of the Akatsuki invasion of Suna, in which the organization of S-Class Missing Nin led by Obaido Uchiha was destroyed, and the Konoha Imperial conflict, in which a group of high-ranking shinobi led by 2 of the Sannin chose to fight the Emperor and his wife, the Empress Consort, resulting in the deaths of 16 ANBU Black Ops, the maiming of several high. Naruto had taken Obaido Uchiha to the sword upon their return to the west, and Kurama had incinerated his body. Naruto had pissed on the ashes as a final insult. Konoha's standing as the strongest of the shinobi villages in the east has plummeted in the months since that incident. Suna had surpassed Konoha as the strongest of the shinobi villages, with Konoha and Iwa tied for second place. Naruto and Hinata launched Imperial Protocol 110,482 after knocking Konoha down a notch. Originally titled Operation Kill the Bakas as a joke between Naruto and Hinata, Imperial Protocol 110,482, also known as Operation Scorched Leaf, was a series of plans devised by Naruto and Hinata that would eventually lead to the destruction of Konoha. Naruto realized that sending in his army would be too time-consuming, so he devised this plan. The plans were revised and revamped once Naruto and Hinata became emperors. Naruto and Hinata had put their plan into action after returning to Kimen. Naruto had sent out a series of scrolls a week after his return to Kimen, detailing not only the failed Akatsuki invasion of Suna and the confrontation between the Empire and the Konoha shinobi, but also information about the Akatsuki, Obaido Uchiha, and Operation Moon Eye. The outcomes were as Naruto and Hinata had predicted, further damaging Konoha and sowing mistrust in the Leaf. Tsunade and the Fire Lord, of course, denied the accusations, claiming that Naruto was acting out of spite. However, because they had chosen a hero over a potential traitor, their denials fell on deaf ears. Tsunade, Jiraiya, and the Fire Daimyo responded to the Imperial Nation's actions by revealing that the Western Empire had the Jinchuriki, and that they had fought in the Suna-Akatsuki War, hoping to use political pressure from the daimyos and the other cages to force Naruto to return the Jinchuriki to their respective villages. Tsunade, on the other hand, was a day late and a ryo short. The daimyos, who controlled the major villages, were already aware that Naruto and Hinata had long since recovered the Jinchuriki, and had agreed to let him do so in exchange for a promise of non-aggression on his part. Should the cages protest the loss of the Jinchuriki, the daimyos will bring them back into line. This was not acceptable to Tsunade and Jiraiya. Fire Country, Konohagakure no Sato. Jiraiya entered the office. The one-armed Sannin's face was solemn, as it had been since the fateful mission into Suna. Naruto's arm stump served as a constant reminder of who he had become. Tsunade raised her head from her paperwork. "So, did you hear anything?" she inquired. "Bad news all around," Jiraiya responded. "According to my informants, the brat appears to be 2 steps ahead of us. The daimyos have long known that Naruto had taken the Jinchuriki, and they even allowed him to do so in exchange for a promise of non-aggression on his part. Which means their respective cages have no power," Tsunade grumbled. "What about Naruto and Hinata's entries in the bingo book?" Jiraiya raised his head. "They were null and void. The Gaki and the Hyuga have been recognized as rulers of a sovereign nation, which, as you know, carries automatic diplomatic immunity. Honestly, I never expected Naruto to be this cunning. Whatever he thinks of, he knows how to counterattack." He turned back to his former teammate. "But, Jiraiya, we still have one more card to play," Tsunade said. "The Summit of Cage. Do you think it'll work?" Jiraiya inquired. Tsunade stated, "Konoha is no longer the strongest of the shinobi villages. Aside from the fact that we lost 4 clans and Orochimaru is launching hit-and-run attacks over the border, thinning out our numbers even further now that he doesn't have to worry about the Akatsuki. Hadake is dead, Guy is a cripple, and both Sarutobi and Yamato are in rehab. You know what they're calling Naruto now, because he was responsible for the Akatsuki's destruction. They're calling him the Akatsuki Killer." Tsunade snapped, "I don't care what they call him. He poses a threat not only to Konoha, but to the entire Fire Country." "I concur," Jiraiya said. Right now, my informants are looking into the Pikara Merchant House branches in Wind, Wave, Tea, and Spring. So far, all we have are trade routes, nothing concrete. Tsunade replied, Iron Country. General Mifune has agreed to act as host and mediator to the other cages, and the meeting is scheduled for 3 weeks from now. You will remain here as acting cage in my stead, while I take 2 bodyguards, as Mifune has stipulated. Who are you taking with you? Jiraiya inquired. Banzu has offered 2 of his private security corps to accompany me, but I seriously don't trust him. Tiba Inuzuka is still on the inactive list, so I'll take the Inuzuka matriarch and Sakura Haruno, as she was the least wounded shinobi in the group. That brat has been lucky for a while now, but his luck will run out once I turn the other cages against him. How about the Jinchuriki under his command? Tsunade sighed. My grandfather gave the tamed beasts to the other shinobi villages to keep the peace once they were tamed, so the Jinchuriki are the property of the Senju clan, which means they belong to me. That brat will have no choice but to surrender the Jinchuriki to me, or else he will suffer the consequences. Jiraiya groaned. If this was the same brat who was a genin, then yeah, Naruto would be no match for us. But now ... he is an unknown, Tsunade. He is no longer the same brat who Sensei wanted to be Konoha's weapon, and being an unknown makes him even more dangerous. He gestured to his stump. Look what he did to me, to Asuma, Guy, and Yamato. Hadake is dead, and he was one of our strongest shinobi. He could have killed us back in Suna, but he chose not to, and it wasn't because this was his former home. Are you saying he spared all of us for a reason? Tsunade inquired. It appears that way, said the one-armed sage. The kid was known to be unpredictable. He made the impossible possible, beating the Inuzuka heir and the Hyuga prodigy in the Chunin exams. Hell, from what Sasuke had told me, he unlocked the power of the Rinnegan during their first battle at the valley. The fact that he can fight without relying on it as a crutch makes him even more dangerous than Itachi, Obaido, and Sasuke combined. Jiraiya remembered Naruto's words that day in Suna, after he and Hinata had triumphed in their fight. This is what you call hatred. It's what I call retribution. You call this vengeance. This is what justice entails. But, you hag, this is only the beginning. For the Leaf, this is the beginning of the end. Return to Konoha and inform them that the last of the dead has returned. Tell them that, just as the Yellow Flash brought Konoha to power, the Emperor of the Six Paths will bring it to an end. Do you think he could contact Orochimaru? Tsunade inquired. Jiraiya raised his head. I don't think so. I think it's safe to say he's no more a fan of that snake than either of us. In the meantime, I'm heading for the Fire Capital to update the Fire Daimyo on the situation. And then I'm going to check in with some of my contacts in Tanzuka. Tsunade nodded and walked away from Jiraiya. Palace Gardens, Imperial Complex. Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze smiled as Hinata and Tenten gossiped while sitting in the shade of the Sakura trees. Izashi and Minato were sitting in their laps, while Hayashi and Neji fussed over the 2 children. He looks exactly like you, Mifune said as he stood by the Emperor's side. Fatherhood is right for you. I'm glad you agree, General, the Emperor said. As he turned to face the old samurai, his expression became solemn. Despite everything, this was not a social call. You chose to come to Kimen rather than contact my informants and spies in the east for a reason. General Mifune and a group of bodyguards had paid a visit to Kimen a few days before. Sanchi had welcomed his longtime rival warmly, even hosting a feast in his rival's honor at his estate. Sanchi and Mifune had fought in the arena on Friday, the day of the local tournaments. Among those present were Naruto, Hinata, and the Imperial Council. The battle had ended in a draw, but the old men were upbeat. This was Naruto's second meeting with the Iron Country's ruler. He first met Mifune through Iji Kibagami, when Mifune came to Kimen for the first time to sign a trade agreement that allowed the Empire to establish a Pikara outpost in Iron Country in exchange for lower prices for their goods. Mifune returned to the Imperial Complex for the second time with information for the Emperor and Empress Consort. Konoha-related information. Once again, your instincts are correct, Mifune confirmed. Your actions in Suna towards your former village have piqued the interest of the other villages, and the Godame Hawkage has called for a cage summit, which I have been asked to host, not to mention act as a mediator. And you agreed to do just that. Yes, and it just so happens that the summit coincides with your and your wife's annual inspection of the Pikara Merchant Branch in Iron Country, which is 1 month from now. Naruto nodded in agreement. Do you want me to crash the summit, General? The elderly gentleman smirked. Yes, unofficially, but you know the rules. Interesting, Naruto commented. You said I could only bring 2 bodyguards. Mifune gave a nod. It appears that my wife and I will be attending the summit, General, Naruto said. I appreciate the information. Later, inside the Imperial Palace. So, what did Mifune want to talk to you about? Hinata inquired as she tucked Minato into his bed for the night. Their 1-year-old son was a ball of energy. He was now tucked away. Before settling in for the night, Minato let out a cute little yawn. Naruto stood there watching Hinata care for their son. Mifune dropped some interesting news about the East, he responded. The old hag has requested a cage summit. Senju intends to try to get the cages on her side, Hinata explained. They might even try to put pressure on us now that they know we have the Jinchuriki here. I had the same thought, Naruto admitted. I knew there had to be a reason I married you. Hinata smiled as she turned to face her husband. Without me, you'd get in trouble and be miserable, so what are your plans? She inquired. Naruto's expression said it all. Aren't you going to crash the summit? Yup, Hinata sighed. I see you're not going to change your mind, so since you're going, I might as well come along. I have this cheongsam that I want to wear for the occasion. What were Mifune's conditions? 2 bodyguards are allowed, so I'll bring Mochizuki and Sana. Hinata gave a nod. Naruto, when we confronted Tsunade and the others back in Suna, why didn't you kill Sasuke? Why didn't you spare his life instead? I know he shoved a Chidori into your chest during the retrieval mission, but why not just kill him and be done with it? I think Yujito's training has rubbed off on you, Naruto pondered as he approached the nightstand drawer. You should have been a Hellcat instead of a medic nin, he said, unlocking the drawer's seals and pulling out 2 black books, one with the Leaf's insignia, and the other with Danzu's Root ANBU's insignia. Naruto started to explain. The first time I returned to the Leaf, I assassinated Hanmura and Koharu, and I stole the first book from Danzu detailing his crimes in the name of the Leaf. The second book, I stole from the Hawkage's office when I snuck back in to retrieve my parents' ashes. After spiking her sake with laxatives, and blowing up the Hawkage monument was a bonus. Hinata started flipping through the pages of the Hawkage Black Book. When are you going to tell me about this? She inquired. Remember, I told you Sarutobi and those 2 idiot students have a lot of secrets. Oh, Hinata said as she continued to turn the pages. She came to a halt. Bitch's son. Naruto recognized the tone of her voice in an instant. If Hinata spoke in an angry tone, violence and, in the worst case scenario, death would almost certainly follow. Hinata was enraged, and she had reason to be. Sarutobi, Jiraiya, and those 2 relics all had a hand in my kidnapping attempt. What happened with Kumo? Hinata gave a nod. Sarutobi tried to swindle me. The incident Hinata was referring to was the Hyuga affair. Hinata would have been kidnapped by the Kumo ambassador if her father hadn't killed the kidnapper. In retaliation, Kumo had threatened war unless Konoha handed over the Hyuga clan leader. Izashi had gone in Hayashi's place because the caged bird seal would prevent Kumo from learning about the Byakugan. And Kumo didn't know the difference because he was Hayashi's twin brother. Well, it's a good thing he died fighting Orochimaru, isn't it? Naruto remarked as he flipped through Danzu's black book. You still haven't answered my Sasuke question, Hinata said. Go to page 49. Hinata did as she was instructed. Downfall operation. The Uchiha were planning a coup, Naruto explained as Hinata read the blackout orders. Sarutobi, Danzu, those 2 old bastards, and Jiraiya had ordered Itachi to butcher the entire clan, save for Sasuke. What they don't realize is that Obaido assisted in the slaughter. The reason Sasuke is still alive is simple. Konoha's destruction will not come from us. It'll come from Sasuke, Hinata concluded. By having Konoha and Fire Country focus their attention on me, they will not suspect the Uchiha of stabbing them in the back. Konoha knows that the Imperial Nation is a threat to them. Danzu tried to assassinate us and failed. Tsunade lost face when she attacked us in Suna. Orochimaru will do his part in keeping pressure on Konoha. More than likely, he knows about the both of us, but Naruto took a seat next to Hinata. Even when we were under Haddock, Sasuke saw himself as an elite because of his clan name and his Sharingan. What he values is power and influence. If Konoha does not give him what he wants, or if it appears to be weak, he will go elsewhere for the power that he thinks he so rightfully deserves. That's why he went to Orochimaru the first time, Hinata explained. Hinata continued after Naruto nodded. And if he tries to defect again to Orochimaru, Naruto smiled. This time, he would most likely succeed. All Sasuke needs is a push in the right direction, which is where these 2 black books come in. But I don't plan on driving him to the snake just yet. That won't happen until after the Imperial Kumite in 2 months, when I will pit Sasuke against one of the 4 Devas, preferably Rasu. Once Sasuke discovers that he is not as powerful as he will discover the truth once I plant these inside his home, that Konoha has been using him in the same way they tried to use me, and he will flee to Orochimaru. Only this time, there will be no retrieval team to stop him, because Orochimaru will not repeat the same mistake. Hinata explained. Sasuke will flee to Orochimaru, and since Konoha was responsible for his clan's destruction, he will bring hell down on the leaf, she chuckled dryly, and will keep a safe distance from the festivities, Naruto said. All we need is the popcorn, and regardless of how the battle plays out, whether Konoha wins or the snake destroys Konoha, we move in and finish the leaf off once and for all. And what about Sannin? If they had honored my parents' final wishes instead of betraying me, this would not have gone as far. Her husband responded. Their time has passed, and they are unaware. The aforementioned Sannin and Sasuke Uchiha sneezed elsewhere in the east. Simultaneously, an uneasy feeling crept up their spines, as if the death god himself had sealed their fates. The Iron Country. Iron Country was the only elemental country with highly trained samurai rather than shinobi. The samurai who lived there were descended from samurai who fled the war-torn west in search of a more peaceful life. The other shinobi villages had left it alone because the samurai were not only tough, but Iron Country had a long-standing policy of not meddling in the affairs of other countries. The country was an excellent choice to host the Cage Summit due to its neutrality. The summit was held within the Iron Capital, with General Mifune serving as host and mediator. The meeting was attended by the major players in the elemental countries, as expected. Dame Mizukage Terumi and her bodyguards, Ao and Chijiro, from Mist, Sandame Tsuchika Jonoki of both scales and his bodyguards, his granddaughter Kuritsuchi, and Akatsuchi are all from Iwa. Dame Hokage Tsunade Senju and her bodyguards, Tsuman Yuzuka and Sakura Haruno, are from Konoha. Dame Reikage Ohatsu Katsuragi and her bodyguards, who happened to be Oto Shinobi disguised as Kumo Jounin, came from Kumo. Dame Keisuke Gaara of the Sands and his bodyguards Temari and Kenkuro, both from Suna. The Emperor and Empress consort of the Imperial Nation were also present. Iron Country branch of Pikara Merchant House. The Iron branch of the Pikara Merchant House was a walled compound located several blocks away from the Cage Summit meeting. Because he had relatives in Iron Country, Ig Kibagami was instrumental in establishing a trading alliance with them. Naruto and Hinata Namikaze were finishing up their preparations inside one of the compound's offices. Naruto and Hinata dressed up for the occasion because it was a formal event. Naruto no longer wore orange and instead wore mostly black, having adopted the Western style of clothing, vest, pants, and boots. The shirt had a tight collar and was white. His long coat and black cage-style hat hung on a rack. Hinata was completing her own preparations. She wore a red cheongsam dress with a black lotus pattern that highlighted her curvy figure. Her hair was adorned with a red rose. Her natural beauty was enhanced by her lack of makeup. The couple and their elite guard had arrived in Iron Country via the Demon's Gate hours before the cages were due to arrive because the Imperial Nation's airship couldn't land. Naruto and Hinata made their plans to crash the Cage Summit after inspecting the Pikara compound. Hinata looked over at her husband, who had just put on his long coat. Ready? Naruto nodded as he slipped on the cage-style hat. Ready. The summit of Cage. A large council chamber with a round table in the center of the room. Iron Samurai stood guard in the room, ensuring that the 5 cages and their respective bodyguards remained civil. Dame Mizukage Terumi, Dame Hokage Senju, Sandame Tsuchika Jonoki, Dame Kazekage Gaara of the Sand, and Dame Reikage Katsuragi sat clockwise from Mifune's left. Their respective bodyguards flanked them. There was an empty space directly opposite Tsunade. For those of you who don't know who I am, Mifune began. I am Mifune, leader of Iron Country, and general of the samurai forces here. I welcome you to my home on behalf of the people of Iron Country, and I will be acting as mediator for this meeting of the cages. He turned to Tsunade. You have the floor, Dame Hokage. Thank you very much, General, Tsunade said. She cleared her throat and began to speak. Fellow cages. The threat of the Akatsuki has passed with its destruction. But there is a new threat on the rise. One that can not only destabilize, but also destroy, the fragile balance of the elemental countries. Gaara's and Mei's eyes narrowed. They were well aware of what the Godame was referring to. I'm referring to the unified Western Empire and its ostensible leaders, Naruto Uzumaki and Hinata Hyuga, Tsunade concluded. From what Jiraiya told me after his visit to the West, the Imperial Nation's military might is far greater than the combined military might of our villages. What the East witnessed with the destruction of the Akatsuki was nothing more than a sample of what Uzumaki can muster. I disagree with your claims, Lady Hokage, Gaara said, defending his friend. Emperor Namikaze is not a threat to any of us here. Your opinion of him has been skewed since the day he was born, as evidenced by your actions in banishing him following the retrieval mission of the Uchiha. Indeed, Onoki replied, fully aware that the Emperor was the son of the infamous Yellow Flash, as well as the circumstances surrounding Uzumaki's exile. Regardless of the stone's issues with the Yellow Flash, it makes no sense to banish a genin who successfully completed his mission while pardoning the genin who attempted to defect to a potential traitor. Had this occurred in Iwa, the Uchiha runt would have been executed, sharing and be damned. Second, May continued, had Uzumaki harbored any ill will toward any of us, he would have invaded the East long ago. I agree with my Suna counterpart. Your opinion of him is flawed. His exploits in the East are public knowledge. It was through him that the Leaf gained its many alliances, ironic as it was by the Uchiha that they were taken away. Tsunade clenched her fists and gritted her teeth. That was correct. In any case, Katsuragi says, from what I've seen, Uzumaki isn't a threat to any of us. We've all heard the reports coming from Suna, where you, Jiraiya, and several high-ranking shinobi confronted and fought the Emperor and Empress in the village streets. Onoki laughed. Oh, I would give anything to have been there. The look on your faces when the gaki that you, Jiraiya, and the rest of Konoha had written off as worthless was discovered to be the Emperor of the West, and the fact that both he and his wife had humbled you and your shinobi are a bonus. Humbled? Tsunade asked again as she rose from her seat. Humbled? 16 of my ANBU are dead. Kakashi Haddock, the last of Yondame's students, is dead. Jiraiya, my teammate, lost his arm at his hands. One of my shinobi had his back broken in such a way that not even I could fix it. You want to fight me, Senju? Onoki mocked, leaping to his feet. You really shouldn't. Konoha isn't looking good right now. You're no longer the strongest of the villages, not after your actions in Suna, which left the Leaf with a black eye. Mifune cleared his throat, drawing the cage's attention. His silent glare told them to take a step back, which the Sandaime and Godaime did. Hiratsuchi and Akatsuchi grinned behind Onoki. I'd rather fight that brat who calls himself Emperor than you, Tsunade stated. He's nothing without that title or the Rinnegan. I underestimated him the last time, and I'm not going to do it again. You should be careful what you wish for, Godaime Hawkage, a voice from the door said, drawing everyone's attention to the now open doors. It might just backfire on you in the most dramatic way. The Emperor and Empress of the Imperial Nation entered the room, his long coat fluttering behind him. Behind them were two of their bodyguards, a woman dressed similarly to Tsunade with tattoos and a Saizebushi level Ana Bujaisha identified as a Hellcats member by her khaki flak vest. Mifune stood up from his seat. Emperor Namikaze, Empress Namikaze, you honor my home with your presence. May I inquire as to what you and your wife are doing here? He asked, knowing the answer. Hinata and I are here as part of my inspection tour of the Pakara merchant houses in the east, Naruto explained calmly. We have come to pay our respects to the current ruler of the country, as per imperial tradition. He looked around the room, studying the 5 cages and their bodyguards. It appears that my wife and I have arrived at an inconvenient time. On the contrary, Mifune stated, the subject was both of you in the Western Empire. Yes, Emperor, Tsunade said, sarcastically pronouncing Naruto's title. We'd like some answers to some questions. Naruto turned to face his wife, who nodded. Of course, he replied. There's nothing wrong with a quick conversation. It's very good for the soul. 2 additional chairs were brought in and placed next to the Godaime Raikage. Benisato and Sana stood behind the Emperor and Empress, while Naruto and Hinata walked over and took their seats. Naruto, like the other cages, removed his hat and placed it on the table. Tsunade was trying her hardest not to knock his head off, but she managed to keep her cool. I am Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze, former genin of Konohagakure no Sato, now the first sovereign emperor of the unified Western Empire. Naruto began, for those of you who don't know who I am, or for those who are meeting me for the first time. And I'm his wife, Hinata added. Hinata Hyuga Namikaze, Empress Consort. So what the Godaime Hawkage says about you is true, isn't it? Onoki inquired. Are you Minato Namikaze's son? I am, Naruto said. I am the legitimate heir of Minato Namikaze and his wife, Kushina Uzumaki Namikaze, he said, motioning to the 2 women standing behind him. What you may have heard about the Western Empire is more than likely true. Yes, I was banished by the Godaime Hawkage of Konohagakure no Sato on trumped-up charges solely because I am the Jinchuriki of the 9-tailed fox. Hinata came with me at her father's behest, in order to avoid being branded with the caged bird seal. Naruto refused to reveal his trump card for the time being, stating that he was the former Jinchuriki of Kurama. No, not yet. Naruto and Hinata had told the cage meeting about his trials and tribulations in the West for 5 minutes. First, he assassinated Rokubungi Oda, said to be the most powerful of the warlords. He told them about his 2 years as a warlord, unifying the continent, and Hinata laying the groundwork for the Imperial Medic program, which trained shinobi and samurai. He declared that after the Unification Wars, he and Hinata were the undisputed rulers of the West. That's it, Naruto said. We came from nothing, clawed our way to the top of the mountain, and the people recognize both of us as the Emperor and Empress of the West. Clap, clap. Everyone's attention was drawn to Tsunade. She was clapping sarcastically, while Tsume and Sekiro were looking amused. Bravo, brat. You can tell a great story, and I think Jiraiya could use it in his next book. Naruto chuckled as he leaned back in his seat. You of all people know that I never lie about my skills, hag. It just burns at you, doesn't it? To see Sarutobai's plans to condition me into being Konoha's perfect weapon backfire. That when you couldn't control me, you banished me and sent the ANBU after me. Be careful, Uzumaki, Tsunade cautioned as she rose from her seat. I could crush you like a bug just as easily. You tried, remember, said Naruto. And what was the end result? He asked, ticking off his fingers. 16 ANBU dead. 3 maimed Jounin. 1 Sannin missing an arm. And Kakashi Hadake dead. And that was me and Hinata without trying. And what about you? Onoki inquired. Naruto sighed and shrugged. Tuesday. Onoki laughed. I like this kid. Granted, his father was the Yellow Flash, but the kid has spirit. And you values strength and honor. Plus, the Western herbal tea your merchants sell has done wonders for my bad back. We're getting off topic, Tsunade said. There's still the Jinchuriki, she said, her gaze fixed on Naruto. Do you deny having all of the Jinchuriki in your possession? No, I'm not going to deny it, Naruto said. With the exception of General Nai and the Godame Kazekage, I admit that I retrieved the Jinchuriki from here and offered them asylum within the Empire. Naruto continued before Tsunade could respond. I did this with the blessings and consent of the daimyos of earth, lightning, and water in exchange for a pledge of non-aggression on my part, and with me promising never to unleash the power of the Jinchuriki upon their countries and villages. And yet, Sakura pointed out, you used them in the war against the Akatsuki. You are a hypocrite and a liar. Naruto's gaze was drawn to his former teammate. I'm sorry, was I talking to you? Until I address you, Haruno, close that hole between your nose and chin and reattach your lips to Senju's ass. He addressed the assembled cages, ignoring Tsume's hold on Sakura. Yes, I had the Jinchuriki fight alongside the Akatsuki in the war, but I kept my promise not to unleash them on the villages or the elemental countries. I asked them if they wanted some retaliation against the Akatsuki, and they agreed to come along. The daimyos may have agreed to your Jinchuriki requests, but the fire daimyo did not. And neither did I, Tsunade said. The tailed beasts, and by extension the Jinchuriki, are the property of the Senju clan. My grandfather gave the Biju to the other shinobi villages. As Hashirama Senju's granddaughter, you will hand over the Biju to me. And because you hold the strongest of the Biju, I demand that you abdicate your throne and hand yourself over to face the justice of the leaf. I'll think about it. No, Naruto responded. You dare to refuse me, snarled Tsunade, a Senju and a Six Paths descendant. I do. You seem to forget your history. The Uzumaki are the direct descendants of the Six Paths Sage, the original Jinchuriki to the 10 Tails, who divided the power of the Biju into 9 beasts. You claim that the Jinchuriki, and by extension Gaara and myself, are the property of the leaf. In any case, the Biju are not your property. The Jinchuriki are under my protection. Onoki, Mei, Mifune, and Katsuragi sat back and watched this soap opera between the Emperor and the Godame Hokage. I don't care what you think. The Jinchuriki are Senju clan property. This is not up for debate. You will hand them over to me now. Tsunade was taken aback by Naruto's next question. Did you have the same impression of my mother? Tsunade stuttered, what? It's a simple question, Naruto continued. You of all people know that my mother was the Jinchuriki to the fox, as your grandmother was before her. You blamed me for her death, even though it was clear that Abido Uchiha was to blame. Did you regard my mother, your niece, as Senju property, despite her status? Tsunade shot back, I don't have to answer that. Of course you do, Naruto said, his voice cold. Since you claim that the Jinchuriki are the property of the Senju, of which I am also a member because Maido Uzumaki is a member of the Uzumaki clan. Did you consider my mother to be the property of the leaf, despite her being the daimyo of Whirlpool, and your niece? The tension in the room was palpable. The other 4 cages stood by as the Godame Hokage and the Emperor of the West stared each other down. I see the answer in your eyes, Senju. Despite the fact that my mother was Whirlpool's ruler. Despite the fact that you saw her as the daughter you never had ... You saw her as property, Naruto said. So what if I did? Snarled Tsunade. Kushina was like a daughter to me, yes, but she wielded Kyuubi power. Power that belonged to the leaf. To my clan, not yours. Temper, Senju, Naruto muttered. You really shouldn't get your blood pressure up at your age. But if you keep going down this road, thinking that Konoha is still the strongest of the shinobi villages when it isn't, seeing as how 4 of its clans and over 200 jounin are under my protection, you are sadly mistaken. The only reason I haven't decided to wipe the leaf from the map is because seeing you in the village suffer because of your actions amuses me. He rose slowly from his chair, his killer intent directed at Tsunade and her bodyguards, his eyes shimmering into the Rinnegan, his voice cold. If you wish to go to war, I'll be more than happy to oblige you. You are already on thin ice with me for betraying not only my parents, but also the Uzumaki clan. If you declare war on the Empire in some misguided attempt at vengeance, Gaara's desert burial will look merciful compared to what the Imperial nation can do. If you go to war with me, I guarantee that Konohagakure will be nothing more than a memory. Yow, that's terrifying, Gaara thought. Shukaku, too, agreed with his tenant. This one concurs. Note to self, don't irritate the Emperor. Both Onoki and Kuretsuchi thought at the same time. Onoki was relieved that he had let go of his old hatred for the Yondan. It was well known that his son was the leader of the West and that he detested Konoha. Iwa had no problem with the Empire as long as the West upheld the non-aggression pact. Lord Orochimaru will need to be informed of this, Katsuragi reasoned. Impressive, Namikaze May observed. Naruto's eyes returned to normal after his threat was made clear. As Hinata stood up, he retrieved his hat and placed it on his head. General Mifune, on behalf of the unified West, we thank you for your hospitality, he said to Mifune. Mifune gave a nod. The Imperial group strode to the door, but stopped, giving Tsunade and her bodyguards one more look. Oh, almost forgot, Naruto said as he turned around. He nodded and turned to face Sana. Sana produced 6 scrolls and tossed one to each cage. Who caught it? What is this? Onoki inquired, hesitant to open the scroll. The Unification Festival will be held in 2 months, Naruto explained. The Imperial Kumite, which is held in South Ikeyama, is the festival's highlight. What you hold in your hands is an invitation to the tournament. No cage can participate. Bring 4 of your strongest shinobi and samurai to compete. The winner of the tournament will earn 20 million ryo for their respective village and the title of champion. That invite you hold in your hands also promises safe conduct throughout the Imperial nation. Tsunade stated, I'll be there, just to see your expression when we demonstrate that the will of fire is powerful enough to crush any and all challengers, including your own fighters. The will of fire, Naruto said again. Konoha's will of fire no longer burns. It has been extinguished by your hypocrisy, fear, bigotry, and hatred. Tell me, Senju ... Did the leaf ever reclaim any of the alliances that I earned for them as a genin? Tsunade responded by staring at Naruto. I didn't think so, Naruto said, smugly. Half of the people in the East don't trust you or Konoha, and for good reason. Hiring a village known for rewarding potential traitors and punishing heroes would be bad for business. Hopefully, I'll see you all in South Ikeyama. The other cages nodded, and the Imperial delegation exited the meeting chambers. Naruto's smug grin never left his lips. Konoha's demise has begun.
I will continue this story in next part. Till then, we weeb offline.